The February blizzard tore through Bitterroot Valley, Colorado, with unrelenting fury, blanketing the rugged plains in blinding snow. Logan Carter, 42, a rancher with dark brown hair, squinted through the frost-covered windshield of his pickup, his wool jacket dusted with snow. Beside him, Ben Alvarez, 35, a mechanic with black hair, gripped the dashboard, his leather jacket creaking. Ryan Hayes, 38, a construction engineer with blonde hair, sat in the back, his puffer coat zipped tight, scanning the whiteout for Logan's missing cattle. The trio, lifelong friends, braved the storm to save the herd, but what they found would shake them to their core. "There," Ben shouted, pointing to a dark shape barely visible in the snow's fury. Logan slammed the brakes, the truck skidding on ice. Through the howling wind, they saw a large form collapsed on the ground, motionless. "Is that a cow?" Ryan asked, his voice tense. They stepped out, the cold biting their faces, and trudged through knee-deep snow. As they neared, the shape became clear, a black German shepherd, his scarred muzzle frosted, lying on his side, breath shallow in faint puffs. Logan knelt, his heart sinking. "He's alive, but barely." The dog's brown eyes, sharp despite exhaustion, tracked their movements with eerie intensity. Ben, who'd grown up around dogs, frowned. "He's not moving." "That's not normal." Ryan circled, noticing the snow around the dog was disturbed, as if he'd fought to stay in place. "He's guarding something," Ryan said, his voice low, spotting a slight depression beneath the dog's body. Logan's skin prickled. This wasn't just a stray caught in the storm. The German shepherd's position, legs tucked, body curled, was deliberate, like a shield against the blizzard. "Careful, guys," Logan warned, his rancher's instincts kicking in. "He's protecting something." Ben's flashlight swept the scene, revealing fresh blood seeping into the snow near the dog's hind legs. "He's hurt bad, maybe barbed wire or a fall." Ryan's phone buzzed, no signal in the remote valley, cutting them off from help. "We can't leave him," Ryan said, his voice cracking, memories of his own lost dog surfacing. "He's fighting to stay alive for a reason." The dog's eyes locked onto Logan, fierce yet pleading, a low whine escaping his throat. Not aggression, but a desperate call. Logan raised his hands, speaking softly. "Easy, boy. We're here to help." The wind howled, and Ben spotted something under the dog's body, a patch of brown fur, smaller, unmoving. "Jesus," Ben whispered, his voice trembling. "There's another dog under him." The revelation hit like a shockwave. This German shepherd wasn't just injured, he was shielding a pup, using his body to keep it alive in the killing cold. Logan's throat tightened. He's been here for hours, maybe days, protecting that pup. Ryan's flashlight shook as he leaned closer, spotting a tiny, shivering form, a German shepherd pup, barely a month old, curled beneath the larger dog's bulk. "It's a baby," Ryan gasped, tears freezing on his cheeks. "He's keeping her warm." The older dog's labored breathing grew weaker, blood pooling in the snow, yet he refused to move, his eyes daring them to come closer. Ben's voice broke. "He's dying for her." Logan's mind raced. They needed to act fast, but moving a protective, injured dog was dangerous, even for seasoned hands like theirs. "We need the emergency kit from the truck," Logan decided. "Blankets, first aid, ropes." As Ben ran back, the dog's whine sharpened, his body tensing, sensing the shift. Ryan knelt, his voice soft. "You're a hero, buddy. We're gonna save her." The dog's gaze softened slightly, as if weighing their intent. Ben returned with supplies, but the dog's agitation grew, a weak growl rumbling. "He thinks we're a threat," Ben said, his hands steady despite the cold. "He's all she's got." Then a faint whimper came from beneath the dog, a tiny high-pitched sound that froze them all. Logan's heart skipped. "That's the pup. She's alive." The older dog's ears flicked, his body shifting slightly, revealing more of the pup's brown fur, matted with snow. But as he moved, something else caught Logan's eye, a glint of metal under the dog's flank, partially buried in the snow. "What the hell?" Logan muttered, reaching carefully, his fingers brushing a small, blood-smeared device. It was a microchip tracker, military grade, blinking faintly. Claire's phone buzzed again, a text breaking through despite the storm. "Leave the dog, or you're dead." The twist landed like a thunderbolt. This wasn't just a rescue. The dog, Shadow, was hiding a secret tied to a deadly conspiracy, and their discovery had just put them all in danger. The Colorado dawn broke gray and unforgiving over Bitterroot Valley, the snow-covered plains stretching endlessly under a sky heavy with clouds. Logan Carter sat on the tailgate of his pickup, his dark brown hair dusted with frost, his wool jacket damp from the blizzard that had raged through the night. At 42, the rancher carried the weight of his land, and the memory of finding Shadow, the black German shepherd, collapsed in the snow, shielding a pup named Bella. Ben Alvarez, 35, a mechanic with black hair, leaned against the truck, his leather jacket creased, wiping ice from his gloves. Ryan Hayes, 38, a construction engineer with blonde hair, stood nearby, his puffer coat zipped tight, staring at the blood-smeared microchip tracker in his hand. The trio, bound by years of friendship, had brought Shadow and Bella to Logan's barn, but the threatening text, "Leave the dog, or you're dead," hung like a storm cloud. Bitterroot's quiet isolation, once a refuge, now felt like a trap. "He's a fighter," Logan said, his voice low, glancing at the barn where Shadow lay on a pile of blankets, Bella curled beside him. The German shepherd's scarred muzzle was still, his brown eyes weary but alert, his bandaged flank rising with shallow breaths. Ben nodded, his voice rough. "He's been through hell to protect that pup. But that chip, what's it doing on a stray?" Ryan's hand shook, the microchip's faint blinking unnerving. "This isn't random, guys. Someone's watching us." The barn's dim light cast long shadows, and the pup's soft whimpers echoed, a reminder of Shadow's sacrifice. A jeep crunched up the icy drive, its headlights cutting through the fog. Dr. Emmeline Nguyen, 40, a veterinarian with black hair, stepped out, her scrubs practical under a parka, a medical bag in hand. She'd rushed over after Logan's call, her suspicions piqued by the microchip. "Morning," she said, her eyes on Shadow, who tensed, a low growl rumbling. Logan stood, his voice calm. "Easy, boy. She's here to help." Emily knelt by Shadow, her voice steady. "He's hypothermic, dehydrated, and those wounds are deep. Cougar, maybe, but he's stable thanks to you." She glanced at the chip, her face tightening. "That's no pet tracker." "It's military grade, encrypted." Logan's pulse quickened, his voice sharp. "Encrypted? For what?" Emily's fingers brushed Bella's fur, checking her vitals. "I've seen these in K9 units, but not strays. Shadow's protecting more than just Bella." Claire's breath caught, her voice trembling. "You're saying someone put that chip in him deliberately?" Ryan held up his phone, the text still glowing. "And they don't want us digging." Blitz's ears flicked, his nose sniffing the air, his body shifting toward the barn door where a faint creak sounded, too deliberate for the wind. Ben's hand hovered near his pocket knife, his voice low. "That's no animal." Emily's eyes narrowed, her voice tense. "You've got company, Logan. That chip's broadcasting your location." Claire's hands clenched, her voice fierce. "They're after Shadow, aren't they?" Blitz's hackles rose, his growl deepening, leading Logan to a pile of hay near the barn's rear. Logan shoved it aside, his breath catching. A hidden leather pouch, weathered and blood-stained, tucked in the straw. He ripped it open, revealing a USB drive and a folded note. Project Sentinel, delivered to VR. "What the hell?" Logan muttered, his heart racing. Emily's face paled, her voice low. "Victor Randall, Pharma CEO. I've heard rumors about his labs." A screech of tires broke the silence. An SUV roared up the drive, its headlights blinding. Ryan's voice trembled, clutching Blitz's leash. "They're here." Logan gripped the USB, his voice a growl. "They're scared we found this." "That means it's big." Claire stood, her voice steel. "Big enough to kill for? We're not leaving Shadow." Ben's flashlight swept the barn, catching a glint outside, a rifle scope in the snow. "They're armed," he hissed, his voice urgent. Blitz's bark was sharp, his body poised, ready to fight. The twist landed like a bomb. Ryan's phone buzzed again. A new text. "Hand over the chip, or the pup dies." Ethan's blood ran cold, his voice fierce. "They're targeting Bella now." Emily bagged the USB, her voice urgent. "We need to get to Randall's lab, Logan. Those files are the key." Claire's tears fell, her voice raw. "I'm coming. No one threatens her." Lily hugged Blitz, her voice defiant. "I'm helping too." "Shadow's with us." The barn was no longer a shelter. It was a battleground, and Blitz's sacrifice had ignited a war Logan couldn't back down from. The Colorado night gripped Bitterroot Valley in a relentless chill, the town's old feed store a weathered outpost of splintered wood and flickering neon under a starless sky. Logan Carter sat in a cramped storage room, his dark brown hair damp with sweat, his wool jacket creased, a lukewarm coffee gone bitter on a crate. At 42, the rancher carried the weight of finding Shadow, the black German shepherd, collapsed in a blizzard, shielding a pup named Bella and a microchip tied to a deadly conspiracy. Ben Alvarez, 35, a mechanic with black hair, leaned against a wall, his leather jacket scuffed, cleaning his pocket knife with a rag. Ryan Hayes, 38, a construction engineer with blonde hair, sat on a stool, his puffer coat unzipped, staring at the USB drive from the barn, its note, Project Sentinel. Delivered to VR, a burning in his mind. The trio, bound by years of friendship, had saved Shadow and Bella, but the threatening texts, "Hand over the chip or the pup dies," had turned their quiet valley into a war zone. "Anything on that drive yet, Ryan?" Logan asked, his voice low, raw, his gaze on the barn across the lot where Shadow rested. Ryan's laptop glowed, his voice shaky. "It's encrypted, but there's a file labeled Sentinel Protocols. Dates match the day that lab exploded 5 years ago." Ben's knife paused, his voice sharp. "The one that killed those researchers." "You think Shadow's tied to that?" Logan's throat tightened, memories of the news report stinging. "That chip was military, Ben. Shadow's no stray." Blitz's faint whine echoed from the barn where he guarded Bella, his loyalty a lifeline after the SUV's ambush. A sharp knock rattled the door. Blitz's growl erupted from the barn, fierce and urgent. Logan grabbed his shotgun, motioning Ryan to stay back, his voice a whisper. "Ben, check the window." Ben peered through a crack in the blinds, his voice tense. "It's Emily." Logan cracked the door, revealing Dr. Emily Nguyen, 40, her black hair damp, her vet's scrubs under a parka, a chemical analysis in hand. "It's me," she said, her voice urgent, glancing toward Blitz's barks. Shadow's fur tested positive for bioagent traces, same as the lab explosion. He was there. Logan's pulse spiked, his voice sharp. "There? You're saying he's a lab dog?" Emily nodded, her face grim. "Trained to detect bioagents." "Someone's covering their tracks." Ryan's laptop pinged, his voice panicked. "Another text, Logan. Same number. You're dead, Carter." Blitz's growl deepened, his nose snapping toward the lot where headlights flickered, an SUV idling in the fog. Logan's hand tightened on his shotgun, his voice cold. "They're back." Emily's eyes widened, her voice fierce. "We need Randall's lab logs, Logan." "That USB's our shot." But Blitz's bark turned frantic, his body lunging toward the barn door as boots crunched outside, too heavy, too deliberate. Logan shoved a crate aside, his voice urgent. "Ryan, get to the barn." "Protect Bella!" Ryan grabbed a crowbar, his voice trembling. "On it!" Ben followed, his voice fierce. "I'm with you, Logan." He ignored them, his rancher's instincts kicking in, motioning Emily to cover the rear. "Go! I've got this!" The door burst open, 3 men in dark gear storming in, one wielding a silenced pistol. "Carter!" the leader snarled, his voice low. "Hand over the drive. No one gets hurt." Blitz's snarl thundered from the barn, breaking free, tackling the leader, his jaws disarming the pistol, pinning him to the floor. Ryan screamed from the barn, his voice raw. "Blitz, no!" Logan fired a warning shot, his voice a roar. "Drop your weapons!" The second man swung a baton, but Emily cracked a wrench over his arm, her voice fierce. "Stay back!" Ben tackled the third, zip-tying him, his voice desperate. "They're after the pup." Blitz's growl shielded Ryan, who dragged Bella's crate to safety, the pup whimpering. The SUV's engine roared outside, tires screeching as it fled. Lily clung to Blitz, her voice sobbing. "They'll kill her, Uncle Logan." Logan knelt beside her, his voice steady. "Not while Shadow's here, Lily." Emily's flashlight swept the leader's gear, her voice urgent. "Military comms, trackers." "This is cartel level." Logan rifled the man's pocket, finding a burner phone, its screen flashing a text. "Randall's orders. Get the drive." Logan's blood froze, his voice trembling. "Victor Randall, the pharma CEO." Ryan's hand covered his mouth, his voice a sob. "He funded that lab. Shadow's proof." Blitz's whine was sharp, his nose pawing the leader's vest, revealing a hidden vial, bioagent, labeled with Randall's company logo. Emily's face paled, her voice raw. "They're weaponizing it. Randall's running Sentinel." The twist landed like a bomb. Lily's phone buzzed again, a video loading, a grainy clip of the lab explosion, a German shepherd fleeing the flames, a voice shouting, "Bravo, run!" Logan's heart stopped, his voice fierce. "That's Shadow, bravo!" "He survived." Claire's tears fell, her voice steel. "I'm with you, Logan, for Bella." Emily bagged the vial, her voice grim. "This is a Black Ops cover-up, Logan. They'll kill to keep it quiet." Blitz's eyes met Logan's, fierce, ready, a vow to protect Bella. The feed store was no longer safe. Randall's betrayal had turned it into a trap, and Blitz's instincts were their only guide through a deepening conspiracy. The Colorado blizzard howled through Bitterroot Valley, the abandoned sawmill a skeletal ruin of rusted blades and splintered beams under a sky choked with snow. Logan Carter crouched behind a stack of rotting lumber, his dark brown hair soaked, his wool jacket torn from the frantic escape from the feed store ambush hours ago, where Shadow's ferocity had saved them from Victor Randall's mercenaries. His bruised rib throbbed, but his heart pounded with dread for Bella, the German shepherd pup hidden in a safe house with Ava. Shadow, the black German shepherd, pressed against him, his scarred muzzle low, his brown eyes piercing the storm, his bandaged flank a badge of his fight. Once Bravo, a canine survivor of a lab explosion, Shadow's instincts had led them here, chasing Randall's bioweapons logs. Ben Alvarez, 35, a mechanic with black hair, knelt nearby, his leather jacket slick, his breath sharp. Ryan Hayes, 38, a construction engineer with blonde hair, clutched a stolen USB drive, his puffer coat dusted with snow. Dr. Emily Nguyen, 40, her black hair wet, her vet's parka soaked, scanned the mill with a flashlight, clutching a tip about Randall's chemical caches. The sawmill, a hub for Project Sentinel, loomed, its creaking rafters a gateway to truth, or a trap. "Loading bay now," Emily whispered, her voice taut, pointing to a sagging door. "Guards, 4, armed." "We get those logs, we bury Randall." Logan's hands shook, gripping a crowbar, his rancher's instincts battling fear, but his voice was fierce. "For Bella, for Shadow, I'm in." Shadow's lunge at Randall's man, exposing the bioagent vial, fueled his resolve. The lab explosion video. "Bravo, run!" Echoing. Ryan's voice trembled, clutching the USB. "He'll find it, Logan. He's our hero." Ben's hand gripped Logan's shoulder, his voice raw. "Bella needs Shadow, man." "Don't let them take him." Emily's flashlight caught a guard's shadow, radio buzzing. "They're moving crates, vials, files," she said, her face grim. "We're out of time." Shadow's whine was urgent, his nose sniffing the air, leading them through the snow, his training sharp despite his trauma. Logan nodded, his throat tight, the feed store's threat. "You're dead, Carter," ringing in his ears. "Let's move," he said, his voice low. The bay door was ajar, revealing a cavernous interior, pallets, glowing bioagent vials, and a faint hum of a generator. Logan slipped in, Emily and Ben covering his flanks, Ryan and Shadow trailing, the air thick with a chemical stench. Shadow's bark was sharp, his body tensing at a locked crate. Logan pried it open, his breath catching, files, a laptop labeled Sentinel, and vials of murky liquid. "This is it," he gasped, grabbing the laptop, but Shadow's growl turned feral, his nose pawing a hidden panel. Ben yanked it open, his voice trembling. "Photos, lab explosion, Shadow running." Randall was there. Ryan's phone buzzed, his voice panicked. "Another text, Logan. You're too late, Carter." Shadow's hackles rose, his nose snapping toward the bay, boots echoed, heavy, deliberate. Headlights roared, 3 black SUVs screeching into the yard. Randall's men spilling out, 6, rifles raised, their leader shouting, "The laptop, Carter, now!" Logan dove behind a crate, shielding Ryan, Shadow charging, tackling the leader, his jaws disarming a rifle, pinning him to the concrete. Emily fired a flare gun, blinding a second man, her shots wild but effective, but the others advanced, bullets splintering beams. Ben's voice was a sob, clutching the USB. "They'll kill Bella, Logan," Ryan screamed, his voice raw. "Shadow, come back!" Logan tackled a third man, zip-tying him, his ribs searing, his voice fierce. "Stay with me, Ryan!" Shadow spun, shielding Ben, his bloodied flank heaving, his eyes fierce. The leader, bloodied, laughed, his voice cold. "Randall's done with you, Carter. Wraith wants those files burned." Logan's rage erupted, his voice a roar. "Not today." He swung his crowbar, cracking a guard's arm, Shadow's snarl protecting Ryan, who clung to a crate, whimpering. Emily's radio crackled. Deputy Anna Brooks at the safe house, her voice urgent. "Logan, Bella's safe, but Randall's men hit my patrol. They're after Shadow's vet records." Logan's heart stopped, his voice trembling. "They're erasing his past." The twist landed like a sledgehammer. Ben's hand shook, pulling a hidden recorder from the crate, a voice crackling. "If you hear this, Carter, Randall's not alone. Wraith's councilman, Edward Vance." Logan's blood froze, his voice raw. "Vance? The town hero?" Shadow's bark spiked, his nose at a guard's vest, revealing a burner phone flashing. "Vance's orders. Eliminate Carter, Alvarez." Ryan's sob choked, his voice fierce. "They're everywhere, Logan. Emily tackled a fourth man, her voice grim. "We're pinned!" More guards flooded in, 8, tasers and knives surrounding them. Shadow lunged, disarming a taser, protecting Ben, while Logan's shots bought seconds, grazing a guard. Ryan's voice was desperate, clutching Shadow's leash. "Don't let them win." The leader aimed at Shadow, his voice cold. "Your mutts first." Logan threw a crate lid, knocking the rifle free, his rage a rancher's fire. "You'll never touch him." Shadow pinned another guard, his jaws fierce but controlled. Emily tackled a sixth, but the radio buzzed again. Anna, her voice panicked. "Logan, it's Officer Mark Reynolds, Michael's old partner. He's at the safe house with a team." Ben's scream was primal, his voice breaking. "Reynolds!" "He trained Shadow. He'd never." But Logan's mind raced. Reynolds, always at Michael's side, trusted by all. Sirens wailed, FBI cruisers storming the yard, floodlights cutting the snow. Emily cuffed the leader, her voice grim. "We've got them." Logan clung to Shadow and Ryan, Ben's tears falling, his voice fierce. "Find him, Logan. Save Bella." Emily grabbed the laptop, her face set. "This name's Vance's cartel drops. We're close." But Logan's voice was raw. "Reynolds is the key. If he's Wraith's mole." Shadow's eyes met his, fierce, ready, a vow to protect. The sawmill was secure, but Vance's shadow loomed, Bella's life on the line, and Shadow's instincts were their only hope. The Colorado blizzard raged across Bitterroot Valley. The abandoned quarry, a jagged maze of frozen gravel pits and rusted machinery under a sky thick with snow. Logan Carter gripped a flashlight, his dark brown hair soaked, his wool jacket bloodied from the sawmill raid, where Shadow had exposed Councilman Edward Vance as Wraith, a mastermind in Victor Randall's bioweapons smuggling ring, Project Sentinel. His bruised rib burned, but his heart pounded with dread for Bella, the German shepherd pup hidden in a safe house. Shadow, the black German shepherd, moved silently beside him, his scarred muzzle low, his brown eyes cutting through the storm, his bandaged flank a testament to his fight. Once Bravo, a canine survivor of a lab explosion, Shadow's instincts had uncovered Randall's bioagent vials. Ben Alvarez, 35, a mechanic with black hair, knelt nearby, his leather jacket torn, his breath sharp. Ryan Hayes, 38, a construction engineer with blonde hair, clutched a stolen laptop, his puffer coat dusted with snow. Dr. Emily Nguyen, 40, her black hair wet, her vet's parka soaked, carried a burner phone, evidence of Vance's cartel ties. The quarry, a hub for Sentinel's shipments, loomed, its icy pits a gateway to answers, or a trap. "North Pit now," Emily whispered, her voice taut, pointing to a snow-covered conveyor. Guards, 5 armed. "We get the shipment logs. We take down Vance." Logan's hands shook, his flashlight beam unsteady, his rancher's instincts battling fear, but his voice was fierce. "Shadow's not dying for their lies. We end this." Shadow's lunge at Randall's man, exposing the bioagent vial, fueled his resolve. The lab explosion video. "Bravo, run!" Echoing. Ryan's voice trembled, clutching the laptop. "He'll find it, Logan. He's our hero." Ben's hand gripped Logan's shoulder, his voice raw. "Bella needs Shadow, man. We can't fail her." Emily's flashlight caught a guard's silhouette, radio buzzing. "They're loading bioagent crates. Files, too," she said, her face grim. "We hit fast." Shadow's growl was low, his hackles up, leading them through the snow, his nose sniffing for threats. Logan nodded, his throat tight. The sawmill's betrayal. Officer Mark Reynolds, Michael's partner, implicated, burning in his mind. "Let's move." he said, his voice low. The conveyor's rusted frame led to a cavernous pit, crates, glowing vials, and a faint whimper from a locked shed. Shadow's bark was sharp, his body tensing at a steel crate marked Sentinel. Logan pried it open, the sight gut-wrenching. 3 German shepherds, emaciated, caged, their K9 tags glinting. "They're alive," he gasped, rushing forward, Shadow guarding him, his whine desperate. A female, scarred, whimpered, her eyes pleading. "We're here," Logan said, cutting the locks, tears burning. Emily's pistol covered the shed, her voice fierce. "Move, pups, we're out." Ben grabbed a crate's lid, revealing burner phones, bioagents, and a ledger. "This lists targets. Bella's name," he said, bagging a phone. But Shadow's growl turned rabid, his nose pawing a hidden crate. Logan yanked it open, his breath catching. A tablet, streaming live. Not just the dogs, but Bella in the safe house, a shadow slipping toward her crate. "They're after her!" Logan screamed, his voice breaking, clutching the female shepherd. Ryan's sob choked, his voice fierce. "Logan, we have to save her!" Headlights roared outside, 4 black SUVs screeching into the quarry. Vance's men spilling out, 7, rifles and tasers, their leader shouting, "The laptop, Carter, now!" Logan dove behind a crate, shielding Ryan, Shadow charging, tackling the leader, his jaws disarming a rifle, pinning him to the ice. Emily fired, grazing a second man, her shots precise despite a bleeding arm, but the others advanced, bullets shredding crates. Ben's voice was a sob, clutching the USB. "They'll kill Bella, Logan," Ryan screamed, his voice raw. "Shadow, come back!" Logan tackled a third man, zip-tying him, his ribs searing, his voice fierce. "Stay with me, Ryan." Shadow spun, shielding Ben, his bloodied flank heaving, his eyes fierce. The leader, bloodied, laughed, his voice cold. "Vance is done with you, Carter. Spectre wants you buried." Logan's rage erupted, his voice a roar. "Not today!" He swung his crowbar, cracking a guard's wrist. Shadow's snarl protecting Ryan, who clung to the female shepherd, whimpering. Emily's radio crackled. Deputy Anna Brooks at the safe house, her voice urgent. "Logan, Bella's okay, but Reynolds is dosing her. He's got a syringe." Logan's heart stopped, his voice trembling. "Reynolds? He's sedating Bella?" The twist landed like a bomb. Ryan's phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number. Spectre's orders, silence the pup. Not Vance, but a higher power orchestrating from the shadows. Ben's eyes widened, his voice raw. "Another boss? Who's above Vance?" Shadow's bark spiked, his nose at a crate, pawing frantically. Emily ripped it open, revealing a hidden drive with emails. Not just Vance, but a code name, Spectre, linked to Senator Margaret Klein. "She's the money," Emily gasped, clutching the drive. "Vance is just the front." Logan's shotgun snapped up, his voice fierce. "We're pinned." More guards flooded in, 9 armed, surrounding them. Shadow lunged, disarming a taser, protecting the dogs, while Ben's shots bought seconds, grazing a guard. Logan's rib burned, but he shielded Ryan, his voice desperate. "Ben, get to Bella!" The female shepherd whimpered, pressing against Ryan, her trust mirroring Shadow's. The leader aimed at Shadow, his voice cold. "Your mutts first." Logan threw a crate lid, knocking the rifle free, his rage a rancher's fire. "You'll never touch him!" Shadow spun, pinning another guard, his jaws fierce but controlled. Emily tackled a third, but the radio buzzed again. The woman's voice, chilling. "Burn it all, Vance. Carter's done." Logan's scream was primal, Shadow's loyalty his anchor. Sirens wailed, FBI cruisers storming the quarry, floodlights cutting the snow. Emily cuffed the leader, her voice grim. "You're done." Logan clung to Shadow and the shepherds, Ben's voice a sob. "You saved them, Logan. Emily's voice crackled through, shaken but firm. "We've got Bella secure, Logan. The feds are moving on Reynolds." Emily grabbed the drive, her face set. "This name's Klein's cartel ties. We're close." But Logan's tears fell, his voice raw. "Bella's in danger, Ben." "They're not done." Shadow's eyes met his, fierce, ready, a vow to fight. Ben's hand gripped his shoulder, his voice fierce. "We'll protect her, Logan." Shadow's with us. The quarry was secure, the dogs safe, but Klein's shadow loomed, Bella's life at risk. Logan's fight, for Shadow, for justice, was a race against a hidden enemy, and Shadow's instincts were their only guide. The Colorado storm battered Bitterroot Valley. The sheriff's station basement, a fortress of cold concrete and flickering bulbs under a sky torn by thunder. Logan Carter leaned against a dusty evidence locker, his dark brown hair matted with sweat, his wool jacket bloodied from the quarry raid where Shadow had unmasked Senator Margaret Klein as Spectre, a mastermind in Victor Randall's bioweapon smuggling ring, Project Sentinel. His bruised rib burned, his grazed arm ached, but his heart pounded with dread for Bella, the German shepherd pup hidden in a safe house, sedated by a traitor. Shadow, the black German shepherd, lay alert by the door, his scarred muzzle tense, his brown eyes scanning the shadows, his bandaged flank, a testament to his fight. Once Bravo, a canine survivor of a lab explosion, Shadow's instincts had saved 3 caged shepherds and exposed Councilman Edward Vance's cartel ties. Ben Alvarez, 35, a mechanic with black hair, clutched a stolen ledger, his leather jacket stained, his breath shaky. Ryan Hayes, 38, a construction engineer with blonde hair, decoded the ledger on a laptop, his puffer coat unzipped, his voice trembling. "Logan, this list's bio-agent drops. Bella's a target." The revelation of Officer Mark Reynolds, Michael's partner, as a mole for Vance, had turned the basement into a war zone. "Keep digging, Ryan," Logan said, his voice raw, his gaze on Shadow, whose instincts had saved Bella. "We need proof Klein's involved." Ben's hand shook, the ledger slipping, his voice breaking. Reynolds trained Shadow with Michael. How could he do this? Logan's throat tightened, memories of Michael's trust in Reynolds stinging. He's scared, Ben. "They're using him." Ryan's eyes flashed, his voice fierce. "Shadow's our hero, Logan. He'll find the truth." Shadow's whine was soft, his nose nudging Logan's hand, his loyalty a lifeline after Reynolds' betrayal. A thud echoed from the stairwell. Shadow's growl erupted, his hackles up, his body coiled. Logan grabbed his shotgun, motioning Ryan to the corner, his voice a whisper. "Ben, behind the lockers." Ben hesitated, his eyes on Shadow, then nodded, clutching the ledger. Ryan dragged Shadow, his voice panicked. "Stay, boy." Logan cracked the door, revealing Doc. Emily Nguyen, 40, her black hair damp, her vet's parka creased, a chemical report in hand. "It's me," she said, her voice urgent, glancing at Shadow, who softened but stayed alert. "Klein's funding Sentinel through state grants. Reynolds is dosing Bella to keep her quiet." Logan's pulse spiked, his voice sharp. "Dosing her? At the safe house?" Emily nodded, her face grim. "Sedatives in her water, enough to silence her." Ben's sob choked, his voice raw. "That pup, they're drugging her to hide Sentinel." Ryan's laptop pinged, his voice desperate. "Another email, Logan, from Spectre. Clear the basement, Vance. No survivors." Shadow's growl deepened, his nose snapping toward the vent, where a faint hiss sounded, gas seeping in. Logan's blood ran cold, his voice fierce. "They're gassing us! Move!" The basement door splintered. 5 men in tactical gear storming in, gas masks on, rifles raised, their leader shouting, "The laptop, Carter, now!" Shadow charged, a black blur tackling the leader, his jaws disarming a rifle, pinning him to the concrete. Logan fired his shotgun, grazing a second man, his shots steady despite his ribs' scream. But the gas thickened, burning his lungs. Ben swung a wrench, cracking a guard's mask, his voice fierce. "You won't touch Bella!" Ryan coughed, his voice raw. "Shadow, help!" Logan tackled a third man, zip-tying him, his eyes stinging, his voice desperate. "Ryan, get to the vent!" Shadow spun, shielding Ben, his bloodied flank heaving, his eyes fierce. The leader, mask cracked, laughed, his voice muffled. "Klein's cleaning Bitterroot, Carter. Spectre wants you dead." Logan's rage erupted, his voice a roar. "Not today!" He smashed a chair over a guard's head, Shadow's snarl protecting Ryan, who coughed, clutching the laptop. Emily's radio crackled. Deputy Anna Brooks at the safe house, her voice urgent. "Logan, Reynolds is talking. He named Klein's partner, Sheriff Alan Walsh." Logan's heart stopped, his voice trembling. "Walsh." Michael's boss? The twist landed like a thunderbolt. The vent hissed louder, and Mark Reynolds, 42, blonde hair disheveled, his deputy's uniform stained, burst through a side door, syringe in hand, his face wild. "Carter, give me the drive," he screamed, lunging at Logan. Ben's voice broke, tears streaming. "Mark, you're drugging Bella? Our Bella?" Shadow's bark spiked, his body leaping at Reynolds, pinning his arm, the syringe clattering. Ryan's sob choked, his voice fierce. "You betrayed Michael, Mark." Logan tackled a fourth guard, his vision blurring, his voice raw. "Why, Mark? Why her?" Reynolds' eyes darted, his voice desperate. "They threatened my family, Logan. Walsh said they'd kill them." Emily cuffed him, her voice grim. "You dosed Bella's water, didn't you?" Reynolds' shoulders slumped, his voice a sob. "Just enough to keep her quiet. To save my kids." Shadow's growl intensified, his nose at Reynolds' uniform, pawing a hidden burner phone, flashing. "Walsh's orders. Gas the basement, take laptop." Logan's blood froze, his voice fierce. "Who's Walsh working for, Mark? Give me a name." Reynolds' eyes widened, his voice a whisper. "Klein, she's untouchable." More guards flooded in, 7, armed, gas masks glowing in the haze. Shadow lunged, disarming a taser, protecting Ryan, while Logan's shots bought seconds, grazing a guard. Ben's voice was a sob. "Logan, save Bella!" The female shepherd from the quarry, now freed, pressed against Ryan, her trust mirroring Shadow's. Sirens wailed, FBI cruisers storming the lot, floodlights cutting the storm. Emily secured Reynolds, her face set, blood seeping from a cut. "We've got him, but Walsh is free." Logan grabbed the laptop, his voice fierce. "This name's Klein's cartel network. We're close." But his tears fell, his voice raw. "Bella's in danger, Ben. We're not done." Shadow's eyes met his, fierce, ready, a vow to protect. The basement was secure, but Walsh's shadow loomed, Bella's life on the line, and Shadow's instincts were their only guide. The Colorado blizzard tore through Bitterroot Valley. The old freight yard, a chaotic sprawl of rusted train cars and ice-slicked tracks under a sky roaring with thunder. Logan Carter crouched behind a derelict boxcar, his dark brown hair plastered to his forehead, his wool jacket bloodied from the basement ambush where Shadow had stopped Officer Mark Reynolds's gas attack. His bruised rib burned, his grazed arm throbbed, but his heart pounded with dread for Bella, the German shepherd pup hidden in a safe house, sedated by a traitor. Shadow, The black German shepherd pressed against him, his scarred muzzle low, his brown eyes slicing through the storm, his bandaged flank a testament to his fight. Once Bravo, a canine survivor of a lab explosion, Shadow's instincts had exposed Sheriff Alan Walsh as a partner to Senator Margaret Klein, codenamed Spectre. Ben Alvarez, 35, a mechanic with black hair, clutched a stolen USB drive, his leather jacket torn, his breath sharp. Ryan Hayes, 38, a construction engineer with blonde hair, held a burner phone, his puffer coat soaked, evidence of Walsh's smuggling network in hand. The freight yard, a hub for Project Sentinel's bio-agent shipments, loomed, its shadowed tracks a battleground for truth. "West Yard now," Ben whispered, his voice taut, pointing to a snow-covered rail car. "Guards, 6, armed." "We get the manifest, we nail Klein." Logan's hands trembled, gripping a crowbar, his rancher's instincts afire despite the pain, his voice fierce. "Shadow's not dying for their empire. We end this." Shadow's lunge at Reynolds, stopping the syringe, fueled his resolve. The lab video. "Bravo, run," burning in his mind. Ryan's voice shook, stroking Shadow. "He'll find it, Logan. He's our hero." Ben's hand gripped Logan's, his voice raw. "Bella's counting on Shadow, man. We can't let them win." Ben's flashlight caught a guard's shadow, radio buzzing. "They're loading bioagent crates," he said, his face grim. "We hit hard." Shadow's growl was low, his hackles up, leading them through the snow, his nose sniffing for threats. Logan nodded, his throat tight. Reynolds's confession. "Walsh said they'd kill my kids." Echoing. "Let's move," he said, his voice low. The rail car's rusted door yielded to Logan's crowbar, revealing a cavernous interior, pallets, glowing vials, and a ledger marked Spectre. "This is it," he gasped, grabbing the ledger, but Shadow's growl turned feral, his nose pawing a hidden crate. Ryan yanked it open, his voice trembling. "Emails. Walsh and Klein, shipping bioagents to cartels." Michael was so close. Ryan's phone buzzed, his voice panicked. "Another text, Logan. Carter's finished. Spectre's orders." Shadow's hackles rose, his nose snapping toward the yard. Boots echoed, heavy, deliberate. Headlights roared, 4 black SUVs screeching onto the tracks, Walsh's men spilling out, 8 rifles raised, their leader shouting, "The ledger, Carter, now!" Logan dove behind a crate, shielding Ryan, Shadow charging, tackling the leader, his jaws disarming a rifle, pinning him to the ice. Ben fired a flare gun, blinding a second man, his shots wild but fierce, but the others advanced, bullets splintering crates. Ryan's voice was a sob, clutching the USB. "They'll get Bella, Logan!" Ben screamed, his voice raw. "Shadow, come back!" Logan tackled a third man, zip-tying him, his ribs searing, his voice fierce. "Stay with me, Ryan." Shadow spun, shielding Ben, his bloodied flank heaving, his eyes fierce. The leader, bloodied, laughed, his voice cold. "Walsh is cleaning Bitterroot, Carter. Spectre wants you erased." Logan's rage erupted, his voice a roar. "Not tonight." He swung his crowbar, cracking a guard's arm, Shadow's snarl protecting Ryan, who clung to the female shepherd from the quarry, whimpering. Ben's radio crackled. Dr. Emmeline Gwynn at the safe house, her voice urgent. "Logan, Bella's sedated again. Walsh's inside man is Deputy Sarah Klein." Logan's heart stopped, his voice trembling. "Sarah." "Margaret Klein's sister?" The twist landed like a thunderbolt. A figure emerged from the railcar's shadows, a woman, 42, blonde-haired, in a deputy's uniform, pistol aimed at Logan. "You're stubborn, Carter," she sneered, her voice venomous. Deputy Sarah Klein, Walsh's inside ally, codenamed Sentinel's Fang. Michael was a liability. Your meddling ends now. Ben's scream was heart-wrenching, his voice breaking. You worked with Michael? You drugged Bella? Shadow's snarl was primal, his body leaping at Sarah, distracting her, the shot grazing Ryan's leg, blood spraying. Ryan's voice was desperate, clutching Shadow's leash. Logan, no! Logan dove, tackling Sarah, his fists swinging, a rancher's fury unleashed. You'll never touch them! Ryan's courage, Shadow's our hero, fueled him, the crowbar cracking Sarah's wrist, the gun clattering. Ben cuffed her with a zip tie, his voice fierce despite his wound. You're done, traitor. But Sarah's laugh was chilling, her eyes wild, Klein's untouchable Carter. You've won nothing. Shadow's growl spiked, his nose at Sarah's uniform, pawing a hidden microchip, buzzing with a feed, hundreds of caged dogs in a Russian port. They're trafficking them, Ben gasped, his voice raw. Klein's funding it all. More guards flooded in, 10, armed, gas masks glowing in the snow. Shadow lunged, disarming a taser, protecting Ryan, while Logan's shots bought seconds, grazing a guard. Ben's voice was a sob. Logan, save Bella! The female shepherd pressed against Ryan, her trust mirroring Shadow's. The leader aimed at Shadow, his voice cold. Your mutts first. Logan threw a crate lid, knocking the rifle free, his rage a rancher's fire. You'll never touch him. Shadow pinned another guard, his jaws fierce but controlled. Ben tackled a sixth, but the radio buzzed again. Emily, her voice panicked. Logan, Walsh is at the safe house. He's after Bella. Ben's scream was raw, his voice fierce. He's going to hurt her. Logan's vision blurred, his voice desperate. We're trapped. Sirens roared, FBI cruisers storming the yard, floodlights cutting the storm. Emily secured Sarah, her face set, blood seeping from her arm. We've got her, but Walsh is loose. Logan grabbed the microchip, his voice fierce. This name's Klein's global drops were close. But his tears fell, his voice raw. Bella's fading, Ben. We've got to move. Shadow's eyes met his, fierce, ready, a vow to protect. The railcar was secure, but Walsh's shadow loomed, Bella's life on the line, and Shadow's instincts were their only guide. The Colorado dawn broke raw and unrelenting. The Bitterroot Valley safe house, a sturdy cabin of weathered timber and reinforced windows under a sky heavy with clouds. Logan Carter stood in the dimly lit living room, his dark brown hair disheveled, his wool jacket bloodied from the freight yard raid where Shadow had unmasked Deputy Sarah Klein as Sentinel's Fang, a key player in Sheriff Alan Walsh's bioweapons conspiracy, Project Sentinel. His bruised rib burned, his grazed arm throbbed, but his heart raced with fear for Bella, the German shepherd pup sedated in a crate nearby, hunted for her connection to a deadly secret. Shadow, the black German shepherd, pressed against him, his scarred muzzle low, his brown eyes vigilant, his bandaged flank a badge of his relentless fight. Once Bravo, a canine survivor of a lab explosion, Shadow's instincts had saved caged dogs and exposed Senator Margaret Klein's global trafficking network. Ben Alvarez, 35, a mechanic with black hair, clutched Bella's medical chart, his leather jacket stained, his breath shaky. Ryan Hayes, 38, a construction engineer with blonde hair, held Shadow's leash, his puffer coat rumpled, his eyes red from tears. The safe house, now a battleground, pulsed with tension. Walsh was coming for Bella. Perimeter's locked, Ben whispered, his voice taut, nodding to FBI agents outside. Walsh's men tried to cut the power last night. Logan's hands trembled, gripping his shotgun, his rancher's instincts ablaze despite the pain, his voice fierce. Shadow stopped Sarah. He'll stop Walsh. Shadow's lunge at Sarah, exposing her microchip, fueled his resolve. The lab video. "Bravo, run!" Echoing, Ryan's voice shook, stroking Shadow. "He's our hero, Logan. Bella needs him." Ben's hand gripped Logan's, his voice raw. "Walsh was Michael's boss, Logan. How could he betray us like this?" Ben's chart trembled, his voice urgent. "Bella's still got sedatives in her system, trace doses, likely from tampered food. Someone's keeping her quiet." Logan's pulse spiked, his voice sharp. "Inside the safe house? Who's got access?" Ryan's phone buzzed, his voice panicked. "Another text, Logan." "Spectre says end the pup tonight." Shadow's growl deepened, his nose snapping toward the hallway where footsteps echoed, too deliberate, too heavy. Logan's blood ran cold, his voice fierce. "They're here." "Move!" The living room door burst open. 5 men in tactical gear storming in, silenced pistols raised, their leader shouting, "The pup's done, Carter!" Shadow charged, a black blur, tackling the leader, his jaws disarming a pistol, pinning him to the floor. Logan fired his shotgun, grazing a second man, his shots precise despite his ribs' scream, but the others advanced, bullets shattering furniture. Ben swung a lamp, cracking a guard's arm, his voice fierce. "You won't touch Bella!" Ryan screamed, his voice raw. "Shadow, help!" Logan tackled a third man, zip-tying him, his arm bleeding, his voice desperate. "Ryan, get to Bella's crate!" Shadow spun, shielding Ben, his bloodied flank heaving, his eyes fierce. The leader, bloodied, laughed, his voice cold. "Walsh is cleaning Bitterroot, Carter. Spectre wants the pup silenced." Logan's rage erupted, his voice a roar. "Not on my watch!" He smashed a chair over a guard's head, Shadow's snarl protecting Ryan, who clung to the female shepherd from the quarry, whimpering. Ben's radio crackled, Deputy Anna Brooks at the perimeter, her voice urgent. "Logan, Walsh has hacked the safe house cameras." "He's watching you." Logan's heart stopped, his voice trembling. "He's running this from inside?" The twist landed like a sledgehammer. A figure stepped from the hallway, a man, 55, gray-haired, in a sheriff's uniform, pistol aimed at Logan. "You're a pest, Carter," he sneered, his voice smooth. "Sheriff Alan Walsh, Spectre's enforcer. The pup's a loose end. You're next." Ben's scream was heart-wrenching, his voice breaking. "You killed Michael Allen, our friend?" Shadow's snarl was primal, his body leaping at Walsh, distracting him, the shot grazing Ben's shoulder, blood spraying. Ryan's voice was desperate, clutching Shadow's leash. "Logan, no!" Logan dove, tackling Walsh, his fists swinging, a rancher's fury unleashed. "You'll never touch them!" Ryan's courage, Shadow's our hero, fueled him, his knife cracking Walsh's wrist, the gun clattering. Ben cuffed him with a zip tie, his voice fierce despite his wound. "You're done, traitor." But Walsh's laugh was chilling, his eyes wild. "Klein's untouchable, Carter. You've won nothing." Shadow's growl spiked, his nose at Walsh's uniform, pawing a hidden microchip, buzzing with a feed, thousands of caged dogs in a Chinese port. "Global trafficking," Ben gasped, his voice raw. Walsh was just the muscle. More guards flooded in, 12, armed, gas masks glowing in the dim light. Shadow lunged, disarming a taser, protecting Ryan, while Logan's shots bought seconds, grazing a guard. Ben's voice was a sob, clutching Bella's chart. "Logan, save her!" The female shepherd pressed against Ryan, her trust mirroring Shadow's. The leader aimed at Shadow, his voice cold. "Your mutts first." Logan threw a table, knocking the rifle free, his rage a rancher's fire. "You'll never touch him." Shadow pinned another guard, his jaws fierce but controlled. Ben tackled a sixth, but the radio buzzed again. Anna, her voice panicked. "Logan, it's Randall." "He's alive, leading Walsh's men from the ridge." Logan's blood froze, his voice raw. "Randall, we exposed him." The CEO's survival was a gut punch. his arrest a ruse to lure them here. Ryan's sob choked, his voice fierce. They tricked us, Logan. Ben's hand shook, his voice steel. Randall swore to honor Michael. He's a monster. Anna's flashlight swept Walsh's gear, revealing a microchip with a new feed. Bella's crate, a nurse slipping a syringe into her water. Another dose, Anna screamed, her voice breaking. They're drugging her now. Logan's shotgun snapped up, his voice fierce. We're pinned. More guards poured in, 15 armed, closing the circle. Shadow lunged, disarming a knife, protecting Ben, while Logan's shots bought seconds, grazing a guard. Ryan's voice was desperate, clutching Shadow's leash. Don't let them win. Walsh's eyes gleamed, his voice cold. You're too late, Carter. Bella's gone. Logan's scream was primal, Shadow's loyalty his anchor. Sirens roared, FBI cruisers storming the safe house, floodlights cutting the snow. Anna secured Walsh, her face set, blood seeping from her shoulder. We've got him, but Randall's loose. Logan grabbed the burner phone, his voice fierce. This name's Klein's Empire. We're close. But his tears fell, his voice raw. Bella's slipping, Ben. We've got to get to her. Shadow's eyes met his, fierce, ready, a vow to protect. The safe house was secure, but Randall's shadow loomed, Bella's life fading, and Shadow's instincts were their only hope. The Colorado sun spilled golden light over Bitterroot Valley's town square, where locals, deputies, and news crews gathered for a ceremony celebrating a hard-fought victory over a sinister bioweapons conspiracy. Logan Carter stood on a modest stage, his dark brown hair neatly combed, a clean flannel shirt replacing the bloodied wool jacket from the safe house raid where Shadow had unmasked Sheriff Alan Walsh as Spectre's enforcer. Beside him, Ryan Hayes, 38, a construction engineer with blonde hair, clutched a stuffed puppy, his puffer coat swapped for a denim jacket, his boots scuffed from nights of danger. Shadow, the black German shepherd, sat proudly at Ryan's side, his scarred muzzle calm, his brown eyes vigilant, his healed flank a badge of his relentless courage. Once Bravo, a canine survivor of a lab explosion, Shadow's barks had saved Bella, a German shepherd pup, from sedation and exposed a trafficking network led by Senator Margaret Klein. Ben Alvarez, 35, a mechanic with black hair, stood nearby, his leather jacket crisp, his smile warm but his eyes shadowed by Bella's fragile recovery. The square buzzed with hope, but Walsh's warning, Klein's untouchable, and Victor Randall's escape cast a lingering shadow. Logan gripped the podium, his voice steady but thick with emotion. Shadow didn't just save Bella, he saved our valley, he said, eyes sweeping the crowd, Ryan's hand in his. His courage broke through lies, and Ryan's heart showed us what loyalty means. This is your story too, about fighting for what's right no matter the cost. The crowd cheered, cameras flashing, a banner overhead reading Shadow's Haven. Logan's throat tightened, his duty to his land and Bella now a badge of honor. Ryan's voice. Shadow's, our hero, burned bright. Shadow's whine was soft, his nose nudging Ryan, who grinned, his fear fading. Ryan took the mic, his voice clear. Shadow's my best friend. He stopped the bad guys and loves Bella. The German shepherd licked his hand, the crowd awing, many wiping tears. Logan knelt, hugging him, his voice cracking. You're my hero, Ryan. You and Shadow gave me a reason to keep going. Ryan hugged Shadow, whispering, You're the best dog ever. The air thrummed with unity, Bitterroot reborn through a man and his protector. Ben joined, holding a plaque, his voice warm but trembling. Shadow's a canine legend and Ryan's his spark. Shadow's Haven will rehab canines and communities because of them. He handed Ryan the plaque, the crowd roaring, kids waving signs. Shadow saves. Bella, still recovering, sent a video message, her tiny bark clear. Woof. Logan's chest swelled, but doubt gnawed. Ben, we got Walsh, but Randall's out there. Is Bella safe? Shadow's tail flicked, his eyes alert, sensing his unease. Ben's smile was fierce. We're close, Logan. Shadow started this, and we'll finish it. Deputy Anna Brooks approached, her files heavy, her voice steady. Feds are raiding ports. China, Russia. Klein's partner, codenamed Viper, is a federal agent tied to the cartel. We've got leads. She nodded at Shadow, awe shining. This dog's why Tommy, Ellie, and so many are safe. He's a miracle. The crowd applauded, but Logan's gaze drifted to Ryan, his heart heavy. The text's warning. Viper's shadow. Bella still a target. A familiar figure stepped forward. Tommy, 12, a shy boy whose dog was saved by Shadow's unit, holding a toy bone. Shadow's like my pup, he said, voice soft, tossing the bone. Shadow caught it, bounding back, the crowd laughing, Tommy's joy infectious. Ryan hugged him, his voice bright. Shadow saves everybody. Logan's tears fell, his voice a whisper. You're changing lives, Ryan. Ben's hand squeezed his voice fierce. You both are, Logan. The ceremony buzzed, kids petting Shadow, locals sharing stories, the fun soaring. Anna pulled Logan aside, her voice low. We found a name. Viper's agent David Holt. He's in Bitterroot, planning a final shipment. Logan's heart sank, the twist chilling. Holt had investigated the lab explosion, vowing justice. He was there, he whispered, his voice trembling. He used Michael's death. Anna's radio crackled, a Feds update. Holt's signal pinged at the old lab, planning a data wipe. We're moving. Shadow's growl was faint, his nose twitching toward the crowd's edge. A man in a dark coat slipping away, unnoticed by most. Logan's blood ran cold, his voice a whisper. He's one of Holt's, isn't he? Ryan clung to Shadow, his small voice fierce. Shadow will find him, Logan, like he found Walsh. The twist deepened. A volunteer, Lisa Walsh, a local nurse, approached, offering Ryan a cookie, her smile too sharp. Shadow's bark erupted, sharp, his body lunging at Lisa, pinning her to the ground, snarling but controlled. Logan's scream pierced the air, his voice fierce. Get away from him! Ben tackled Lisa, his knife drawn, finding a hidden burner phone in her purse, buzzing with a text. Viper's orders. Take the pup. The crowd gasped, parents shielding kids, cameras rolling. Anna cuffed Lisa, her face grim. She's a mole feeding Holt intel. We're closer. Ryan's tears fell, his voice a sob. Why Bella, Logan? Logan hugged him, his voice breaking. Because she's our light, Ryan, and Shadow's our strength. They can't win. Shadow's whine was a vow, his eyes locked on Lisa, his instincts unerring. Anna's voice was fierce despite her bandaged shoulder. We've got Holt's trail, Logan. Lisa's phone has his location, a lab facility tonight. Ben's eyes blazed, his voice steady. We end this, Logan, for Bella. The celebration paused, deputies forming a perimeter. The crowd hushed. Logan's phone buzzed. A video from Bella, her tiny form stirring, barking softly. Logan's heart leapt, his voice raw. She's waking up, Ben. Bella's fighting! Ben's tears fell, his voice fierce. Then we fight too, for her. Ryan hugged Shadow, his small voice defiant. You'll save more dogs, won't you, Shadow? The German shepherd's eyes met his, fierce, ready, a promise to protect. The ceremony resumed, but Logan's fire, the spark Ryan and Shadow had lit, was unstoppable, a beacon for the battle ahead. The Colorado sunset bathed Bitterroot Valley's newly opened Shadow's Haven in a warm golden glow, its rolling fields vibrant with the joyful barks of therapy dogs and the laughter of locals. Logan Carter stood at the sanctuary's heart, his dark brown hair catching the breeze, a clean flannel shirt replacing the bloodied wool jacket from the lab facility raid where Shadow had exposed Agent David Holt as Viper, the mastermind behind Project Sentinel's bioweapons smuggling ring. Beside him, Ryan Hayes, 38, a construction engineer with blonde hair, beamed, his denim jacket bright, his boots scuffed, clutching a stuffed puppy. Shadow, the black German shepherd, sat tall, his scarred muzzle proud, his brown eyes soft yet vigilant, his healed flank a symbol of his courage. Once Bravo, a canine survivor of a lab explosion, Shadow's barks had saved Bella, a German shepherd pup, from a deadly conspiracy. Ben Alvarez, 35, a mechanic with black hair, stood nearby, his leather jacket crisp, pride in his eyes as Bella, now scampering playfully, bounded across the grass, her recovery a miracle. Dr. Emily Nguyen, 40, her black hair loose, her vet's scrubs pristine, watched the crowd, her faith restored. The sanctuary pulsed with hope, but Holt's final text, Sentinel Lives Pupped Eyes, hinted at a shadow still lurking. Logan took the mic, his voice heartfelt. Shadow didn't just save Bella, he saved our community, he said, eyes sweeping the crowd, Ryan's hand in his. His loyalty broke through betrayal, and Ryan's courage showed us what love means. This is your story, too, about trusting the bonds that heal us. The crowd roared, cameras flashing, a banner overhead reading, Shadow's Haven. Logan's throat tightened, his duty to his land and Bella now a beacon of purpose. Ryan's voice, Shadow's our hero, was a spark of light. Shadow's whine was soft, his nose nudging Ryan, who grinned, his fear gone. Ryan stepped up, his voice ringing. Shadow's my best friend. He saved Bella and loves us. The German shepherd licked his hand, the crowd cheering, many wiping tears. Logan knelt, hugging him, his voice cracking. You're my miracle, Ryan. You and Shadow gave me back my life. Ryan hugged Shadow, whispering, You're the best dog ever. The air hummed with unity, Bitterroot reborn through a man and his protector. Ben joined, holding a medal, his voice warm. Shadow's a canine legend, and Ryan's his light. Shadow's Haven will rehab canines and communities because of them. He pinned the medal on Shadow's collar, the crowd erupting, kids waving signs. Shadow saves. Bella, her brown fur gleaming, chased a ball, her tiny bark clear. Logan's chest swelled, but fear lingered. Emily, we got Holt, but that text. Is Bella safe? Shadow's tail flicked, his eyes alert, sensing his unease. Emily's smile was fierce. We're close, Logan. Shadow started this, and we'll keep fighting. Deputy Anna Brooks approached, her badge glinting, her voice steady. Feds are dismantling Sentinel, arrests in Russia, China, beyond. Holt's files exposed Viper's empire. She nodded at Shadow, awe shining. This dog's why Ellie, Tommy, and so many are safe. He's changed everything. The crowd applauded, but Logan's gaze drifted to Ryan, his heart heavy, the text's warning. A new shadow, Bella still vulnerable. A familiar figure approached, Ellie, 11, holding a toy bone, her dog saved by Shadow's unit. Shadow's like my pup, she said, voice shy, tossing the bone. Shadow caught it, bounding back, the crowd laughing, Ellie's joy infectious. Ryan hugged her, his voice bubbly. He saves everybody. Logan's tears fell, his voice a whisper. You're making miracles, Ryan. Ben's hand squeezed his voice fierce. You both are, Logan. The celebration buzzed, kids petting Shadow, locals sharing stories, the fund soaring. Anna pulled Logan aside, her voice low. We traced the text. A new code name, Phantom. Holt's mentor, still free, tied to a global syndicate. He's vanished, but we're hunting. Logan's heart sank, the The twist chilling. Phantom had sent a wreath to Michael's funeral, probing about Sentinel. He planned this, Logan whispered, his voice trembling. Shadow was always his target. Anna's radio crackled. A Feds update. Phantom signal pinged in Denver, planning a new shipment. We're moving. Shadow's growl was faint, his nose twitching toward the sanctuary's edge, a woman in a dark scarf slipping away unnoticed by most. Logan's blood ran cold, his voice a whisper. She's one of them, isn't she? Ryan clung to Shadow, his small voice fierce. Shadow'll find her, Logan, like he found the bad nurse. The twist deepened. A volunteer, Karen Pierce, approached, offering Ryan a juice box, her smile too tight. Shadow's bark erupted, sharp, his body lunging at Karen, pinning her to the ground, snarling but controlled. Logan's scream pierced the air, his voice fierce. Get away from him! Ben tackled Karen, his knife drawn, finding a hidden microchip in her purse, buzzing with a text. Phantom's orders. Take the pup. The crowd gasped. Parents shielding kids, cameras rolling. Anna cuffed Karen, her face grim. She's a courier, feeding Phantom intel. We're closer. Ryan's tears fell, his voice a sob. Why Bella, Logan? Logan hugged him, his voice breaking. Because she's our strength, Ryan, and Shadow's our light. They can't win. Shadow's whine was a vow. His eyes locked on Karen, his instincts unerring. Ben's voice was fierce. We've got Phantom's trail, Logan. Karen's chip has his next drop. Denver port tomorrow. Emily's eyes blazed, her voice steady. We end this, Logan, for Bella. Logan took the mic, his voice heartfelt. Shadow's story is about healing, trusting the instincts that guide us, the bonds that save us. It's yours, too. What's your story with a loyal pet? He smiled at Ryan, who tossed a ball, Shadow leaping, the crowd cheering. Join Shadow's Haven. Help us save canines and communities, one heart at a time. Ben raised a glass, his voice carrying. To Ryan, Logan, and Shadow, Bitterroot's soul. The crowd toasted, kids mobbing Shadow, Logan's laughter mingling with Ryan's. Emily handed him a letter from Ellie, her handwriting shaky. Shadow's my hero. Thank you, Ryan. Logan's tears fell, clutching it, Shadow's nose on his hand. You knew, boy, he whispered, kissing his head. The celebration faded, but Logan's fire, the spark Ryan and Shadow had lit, was eternal, a beacon for the battles ahead. Subscribe to our channel for more stories like this. Leave a like and share your thoughts below.